Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the second game of this best of 3 between Inferno eSports and Heavy Botlane for EUS Challenge Series number 16, round of 16. I am Pulse and I'm joined by Metas. Hello man, how's it going?
It's going good. My voice is managing to hold up a tiny bit longer, so I think you're going to be doing the majority of the play-by-play stuff this game, and I'll be sticking to colour casting, which is going to be quite interesting. It's not something we've done for a long time,
Indeed.
but fingers crossed. Regardless, though, I believe you're in the lobby, whereas I'm watching from stream, so by all means take it away, because at the moment all I see is Renekton ban.
Yes, indeed. We've got Renekton, Riven, Elise, and Annie, and I don't think those are bands that we can really say too much about. They're essentially those top tier picks we keep talking about again and again.
Yeah, there's nothing to really kind of place off and say, yep, that is a strange ban. I mean, we've been seeing so much Annie since Tabby really at the World Finals introduced it as the bot lane support. So it's so strong right now in this current meta. And I'm just very interested, Pulse, and by all means jump in if you see this, but if Lucian's going to slip through, because I honestly feel you need to ban Lucian, especially as heavy bot lane first pick.
Yeah, I agree, especially because Nardius did so well in that last game. Not something they really want to let through again, but yep, Lucian's found himself all the way through the banning phase, and what a surprise, Messers, he's been first picked. Well, they're hovering over him, but yeah, he's been locked in.
If they don't lock him in, I'd be very surprised, honestly, because Nardius finished 11-1, bossed that bot lane. Yes, it was a lane switch up with Vanez running Mundo there, but still Nardius was just, his positioning in fights was better. And we talked about this a tiny bit in the break there, that Bonnie did a really good job of getting kills when he needed to, but sometimes just lapsed a tiny bit in those team fights, got himself caught out from the likes of Nocturne and River needlessly. And when you're playing Jinx and you get caught like that, you're going to die. There's really not a great deal you can do.
Yeah, Jinx is not forgiving when it comes to poor positioning. If you're out-positioned by, like, a Teemo, then you just die. If you're Ezreal, okay, Arcane Shift out of the way, or Lucian, he can Relentless Pursuit away, but Jinx literally has nothing. Like, if she gets jumped on, Flame Chomp is great, but they're still hitting you. It's not a stun, it's a snare. So, in that sense, there's not very much they can do. 10 seconds left on this timer, and nothing has been picked up yet by Inferno. In fact, it's going to be the quick lock-in of Ezreal and also Nocturne, exactly what we were just saying. So, at least for AD carry, it's going to be a little more forgiving.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. So, you're playing Ezreal, Bonnie likes to be super aggressive. We saw that last game, wants to be up in the grill, wants to be trying to make plays, kind of leading by example from the front. Ezreal makes a lot more sense because he's hyper-mobile, probably the most mobile AD carry in the game. And plus, he can poke from range and with the ultimate as well, similar to the Super Mega Death Rocket, in the sense that if you see someone low across the map, you can just fire the True Shot Barrage, and if you land the kill, then hey, great news, you've just picked up another kill and you're going to get more items. So Ezreal for me fits Bonnie's playstyle a lot better. Interestingly though, they're actually going for the Nocturne themselves, so picking this one away from heavy bot lane. Last time around, of course, they were running it themselves on Tolo.
It's interesting because Nocturne is not a pick we've seen for a very long time, and he fulfills a different role to a lot of the junglers at the moment. Like, you're seeing a lot of Shyvana and a lot of like Elise as well, and yes, he has decent trading potential in the jungle, but he can't one-on-one someone like Elise or someone like Lee Sin, which is actually being hovered over and might indeed be locked in as well. But what he does provide to the team is excellent ganking at level 6. He's got a huge amount of potential just to come across the map and wipe out your lane. But pre-6, he doesn't offer all that much. His ganks are okay, but not as good as someone like Lee Sin or Elise or the likes of those conventional junglers.
It made a lot more sense to me against Jinx and Orianna because neither of them are hypermobile. He's got the spell shield as well to stop the flame chompers, as you mentioned before. So it made a lot more sense against that kind of stuck in the mud team. When you've got Lucian though, not really, because Relentless Pursuit, as you said, he can just jump away, culling you backwards as well, and suddenly you've put yourself in a really precarious position. So, bit of a head scratcher, but hey, who am I to doubt these guys? They're probably the best Italian team, great players, and I'm sure they're going to make this Nocturne work for them.
Yeah, indeed. But I agree though, Messers. Like, in the last game, it was picked later on into the picking phase, so it was clearly something that they weren't, like, premeditating. It was something like, okay, well, against this team, Nocturne is a really good pick. But in this case, they just first picked it. Maybe it was because they didn't have much time left on the timer, and because of their bans, they wanted to take Nocturne away from them. That might have been one of the possibilities. But either way, it's something they're going to be running with regardless. Zyra has been picked up from Nardius. Probably not going to be him playing it, because I don't think Zyra AD carry is something we see all that often matters, but definitely with Lucian and the Zyra combination, that's already very strong. Caston has been left open, and curiously enough, even though Caston's left through a lot of banning phases, we're not seeing him all the time, but he's still a very good pick. And if you haven't got a mid lane who can shut him down, you might as well pick him, because he will just dominate a game.
Oh yeah, if he gets the ball rolling, he becomes a complete monster in the mid lane. And that also answers the question as well as whether Zyra is going to be playing support or mid. We've seen Coutard in particular for Copenhagen Wolves, who of course, congrats to them, have just been promoted to LCS. Does run a lot of Zyra in mid still, so it's still a bit of an up in the air pick, but if Cassidy gets locked in, as I'd expect it would, then you'll be having that Zyra bot lane with Nardius's Lucian, which is going to fulfill a very similar role, honestly, to Thresh, that if you lock down with the grasping roots, there's a lot of burst damage to follow it up. Plus the fact as well that Zyra is a brilliant support in terms of just repositioning and disengaging as well, Pulse, with the Stranglethorns. Very difficult to push through that. And that can actually isolate Nocturne from the rest of his team. If he paranoias onto someone like Lee Sin or Lucian or whatever at the back lines, then you put a Stranglethorns down, suddenly Nocturne's in 1 versus 5, and he's going to die very quickly.
Yeah, they can split the team fight very efficiently, and that's exactly what we saw in the last game, is they liked the team fights where they could spread themselves out, the kind of AoE damage from these bruisers of Mundo and Shyvana, who like to be up in your face, up against several people around them, so they have that constant damage from Sunfire Cape, which is typically something both of those bruisers like to build, and just have that constant AoE damage ripping everyone apart. In fact, we're going to have Rengar and Kayle picked up. And Kayle is not something I've seen for a little while. Back in Season 2, Season 1, we had like AD carry in the mid lane, or in the top lane Kayle. Then in later Season 2, Season 3, we had like AP Kayle, and then like attack speed Kayle. So we'll see what Istari or whoever picks it up eventually will run on that champion. But also Rengar.
Yes, so I want to just touch on Kayle a bit more. It hasn't been seen up until the last few days. DreamHack, I saw an Overpow who plays for KMT, and KMT, of course, also got promoted through to LCS, and Overpow run Kayle mid again, and absolutely decimated. So maybe that was the little indication to the rest of the mid laners of, hey, Kayle AP is still very viable in mid, and if you get a couple kills, you will just cut through people like they're paper. So the likes of Zac and Nocturne will not survive very long, plus the fact you've got intervention. So even if you do get this hyper kind of bursty damage on top of your AD carry, or even on yourself, in Kayle's case, you can keep yourself alive through that damage, and then you can start to turn the fight back around again. It's a very scary champion on the right player.
Yeah, intervention is such an amazing ability, and we saw last time Zilean, obviously with the Chrono Shift, great, but intervention will stop your champion from dying straight up. It won't protect you from CC, but it will protect you from dying beforehand, and that is something that is so valuable. And even though Nardius's position was exceptional last game, if they can just keep him alive, even with like a huge initiation, especially when it runs Zac and Nocturne, then it's going to be very difficult to shut Nardius down. Think about it, like Zyro, Stranglethorns, intervention comes down, and all the CC like Dragon's Rage, there's no way they're going to be able to touch Nardius. But anyway guys, we're going to jump to a quick commercial break, and when we get back, we'll be in game with the second game of this best of 3 between Inferno eSports and Heavy Botlane. We will see you soon.
Hello, ladies and gents. Welcome back once again to Chaos TV. I say that as we just jump into a pause, so hopefully this isn't going to be too long. Regardless, though, I'm joined by Pulse, and we are live now into the second game between Inferno eSports, the Italian team, one of the top in their region, and they're going to be going up against Heavy Botlane, who won that first game. Apparently, Nadius is having some problems. That's the reason for the pause.
Yeah, and Hayo just said that in all caps, Nadius is having a problem! But at least we know exactly what's happening, and we have been informed of that. As Vanez just responds with, you know, the pretty casual kappa. So we will just be, I guess, analysing some of these lanes. So in the jungle, we've got Nocturne once again, but on the opposing team. Also got that Lee Sin. So in that jungle matchup, I mean, typically we'd say that Lee Sin can essentially just outdeal Nocturne. Correct me if you believe differently, but Akiwa's essentially, his goal in the early game is just to get to level 6.
Yeah, which is interesting because last time around he was playing Shyvana and he was heavily counter-jungling. So this is going to have to be a different style. We're saying that maybe he's going to play a hyper-aggressive Nocturne. It's definitely possible, but against Lee Sin, it wouldn't be the greatest of ideas. So if he's going to play for that level 6, that gives Tarlol a big window of opportunity to stamp his claim, stamp his authority across the board, because Lee Sin is very strong early game. It's really where he shines. So if Tarlol can make some plays, he can quickly get those lanes snowballing. I've got to say though, when you're against the Diana and Leona combination, how do you beat that, Pulse? That's the power of day and night, the sun and the moon. I mean, that's pretty terrifying.
Yeah, you're essentially screwed when it comes to day, and then when it turns to nighttime, hello Diana, how's it going? You know, they've got a very good synergizing composition. As soon as it hits darkness, you've got Nocturne, so, you know, they're in good shape.
It's like they're playing more for lore than the actual champions. They're like, we have to win because we pretty much like beast the sun and the moon at our opponents. How can they deal with that? But unfortunately for them, there's some very strong picks right now on the side of Heavy Botlane. Nadius got his Lucian again. As I said before, Kale's been seen a lot more recently from the likes of Overpower, who's just been crushing with Kale in mid. So this is pretty scary. Plus, we've not really touched upon Rengar, who was banned in that first game. So it was a complete ban against Cabochard, who's instantly locked that one in. So again, you've got champions on players who like to play them.
Yeah, and that seems to be what Cabochard's essentially repertoire of champions seems to be. Like, Riven is a very all-in champion. So is Rengar. Like, he does very similar things to Riven. He split pushes, he one-on-ones very early on to the game. Sometimes you can go red part. Generally, you want to be going for the more conservative, but not all that conservative, Doran's Blade, and want to be all-inning your opponent. Going to be up against Zac, which is, again, not a pick we've seen for quite a long time after his nerfs, and we just saw other top laners essentially just Shyvana and Mundo all the time.
Yeah, so I'm really going to keep a keen eye out here on Zac from Vanez, who did do pretty okay as Mundo. He died quite a few times, though, in a transitional period around Dragons. So he's probably not going to want to go for that lane switch up. And remember, they did instigate this themselves, Pulse, in game number 1. So he's putting himself in a fairly precarious position. This time, judging from his position, though, he's going to be a top lane against Rengar. So more standard play.
Yeah, indeed. And everyone, this is kind of splitting up. Generally don't see too many jungle invasions. It's very easy to counter jungle invasions with the vision changes, and no one really wants to commit their early wards to a jungle invade. Like, generally the AD carries wards is the only thing you can really do, and even then, you want the extra ward to be elsewhere, and they're not able to clear that up, so they're going to realize there's going to be that one ward in the river, but that's all they will really get from them. So, everyone going to go for these more conventional starts.
Yep, and interestingly enough as well, Pulse, have a quick look at Hiva, the support. He started with Doran's Ring, so he's really going for that early domination, that early damage, on top of Kiala and also Bonnie.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting pickup. Generally, your support will head more towards those support items. Something we saw, I think it was Migza, who was running like a red pot fresh, which was like, well, that's pretty out there, but it gives you more trading potential early, more damage, and yes, it takes away from your gold, but you can essentially just get ahead in the early game, and then because you'll be getting kills, you'll be roaming about the map picking up objectives, then you can start getting those gold items, but you need that spike in gold, which generally as a support you can't always get.
And it's also pretty good because it's not just a case of getting ability power, but you've also got 60 health, which can keep you alive along the likes of Leona, who wants to hard engage, jump on top of you, and do all that burst. What I would say is early stages, maybe levels 1 to 3, Hiva and Anadia should be bossing this lane. But once Kiala gets to level 3, that's where the tables can turn. Top lane though, bit of action.
Yeah, indeed, and Vanna's already dropping up low. Ignite has been popped, and still has the passive though, so Jabberchild not going to have that in his arsenal, whereas Zac still has it. He's going in for round 2. Tallow allows the Q, will be dropped into that passive of the Bloblets, and there's just now cleanup time, which they should be able to do as it moves away from the turret, which is not what Zac wanted, and first blood picked up by Cabochard.
Yeah, bot lane though, looks like they're going to have a gank coming in here, Pulse.
Yeah, Agua coming in, looking to land a Duskbringer, but nice flash, right timing from Nadia's means everyone's just going to back on off.
Yeah, but they did manage to get that flash away from Nadia, so again, when you're against a Leona, that's good news. Definitely not a failed gank. That being said though, top lane with Rengar at first blood, he is going to be terrifying to play off against. He's recalling with just under 1,000 gold, so he's going to be coming back to this lane. It's going to be interesting to see if he goes for a more tanky approach or more raw damage. So what's he going to be electing right here?
Yeah, hold that thought though, because Nodius is being aggressed on. He doesn't have the flash this time around. Barrier's being popped by both of these AD carries. Bonnie will not be picking out, will be going to Kiala, but 1 for 0 trade. Hiver, meanwhile, responding for those auto attacks. Not going to be quite enough. The 1 for 0 trade.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I just said before about the fact that when you're against Leona, you don't have a flash, they're going to play aggressive because they know they have this 3 or so minute time frame to really punish you. And actually, did go for that Boontooth. That's the new one. Boontooth necklace. On Rengar, so he's feeling really confident actually, because of course that will scale with more and more kills and assists. So Rengar's feeling pretty good right now.
I'm glad we came back onto the stream just kind of derping around. So that's fantastic. Yeah, it was like the cast was going perfectly up until that point, and then we go live. Fantastic. But either way, that passive is not available to Zac. He's not able to itemize at all. Not just efficiently, but at all. Cabochard is in very good shape. We'll be maxing the savagery, which is fairly interesting. From a lot of top laners who've been playing Rengar, we generally saw the bowler being maxed because it does more damage. You can farm it from range, and then you'll go for the Q second. But he's actually going to go for this first. What are your thoughts on that?
He's looking to punish Zac because he's got the first blood. He knows his passive is on cooldown. He's looking to really push Vanez back to get more and more farm, to get more and more XP over him. So this is forcing Vanez away, as you can see. It's like, I can't deal with this damage. He's just crushing me.
Yeah, and now with the bush changes as well, that's going to make it very difficult for Zac to come anywhere near the lane at all, because now that there's 3 bushes, the kind of area in which Rengar can jump on you, there's no longer that kind of safe zone towards the middle of the lane. And Vanez, as you can see, is just being pushed away from those minions. Very little he can do about that. Now in the bot lane, however, has finally picked up himself a gold item, which will be Dispel Thief's Edge.
Yep, so he's looking to punish more and more, but Nardis has to be careful. Top lane though.
Yeah, Elastic Slingshot charged up, jumping over the wall, but there is absolutely no way that Vanez can get anywhere close to trading off of Rengar, and that is not good at all. As soon as Rengar can completely outtrade your top lane opponent, then you'll need massive intervention from your jungler to make anything really happen. Actually, he was probably going to use his level 6 gank on that.
It's more sustained damage as well, taking Savagery. Savagery has just around 7-second cooldown, whereas the Ebola Strike has more like 12 seconds. So again, it's putting down the consistent damage, forcing Vanez out the lane, and now with the ultimate, looks like Rengar's going to make some plays in mid.
He is indeed already charged it on up. Dr. Matt heading back to the turret. I think he may have just seen him as the wall came down. In fact, he didn't. The missing core came out and he was already ahead of the game. So the ultimate is down from Cabochard. Might help Zac just a little bit, knowing that he can kind of go blow for blow and head on back without Rengar just ulting and murdering him when he backs on off. Talor, though, in the bot lane, looking for this 3 versus 2 dive. Kiala is still pretty tanky and the Q comes across. Hopefully they didn't notice that minion randomly dying.
Well, the thing is, you don't want to dive at Kiala, and you definitely don't want to dive Leona now at level 4, because it's honestly deceptive amounts of damage and tank and survivability, and you can actually get yourselves on kind of 3 players dying. So a very smart play in the end. Again, though, Vanez is just being forced back, and there's really nothing he can do about this. He's building full cloth armors, he's building full armor, so he's not doing a great deal of damage in return.
Yeah, it's something typical of many top laners, especially like the top lane attacks. They'll just go for armor items, but he's not even able to itemize because he's being pushed away from the creeps. As soon as he comes near and there's not a large stack on his side, Cabochard would just completely punish him, but he's actually going to trade off. Let's Bounce comes down, and he will be jumping to that minion using that passive, of course. Ignite comes down as well. Vanez looking to finish this one off. Will it be enough? In fact, it will not. 22 HP remaining.
Yeah, and also the Ignite was used there from Vanez, plus the flash from Rengar, so he has to be careful, because if he goes back in here, he could be finding himself dead. The Elastic Slingshot is going to be charged up.
Yep, indeed, jumps in, and the Unstable Matter picks up that kill. Tower finally arrives, red buff on hand, auto attacks come down. He's trying to juke away from the auto attacks. That's not how auto attacks work, but that's how flash work. Q will not connect, and he gets on out 1-0 kill.
Yep, smooth moves from Vanez there, plus also sucking up Lee Sin. So again, that's going to alleviate pressure. And because Lee Sin's top lane, look at this pulse, they're going to be jumping on Dragon. Instant reaction here from Inferno, really nice play.
Yeah, it was just a simple, knowledge of where Lee Sin is. What do we do in this situation? Just go for Dragon. Zai is going to try and steal this away. A little easier now because of the smite changes. It ramps up kind of faster, but you have less in the early game, so steals are more prevalent. You can go for those steals a little more easier. But either way, the Dragon will be picked up, and the game is very even.
Holy moly, that's a lot of daggers in the back pocket of Rengar here. He's picked up 3 blades plus the Bone Tooth necklace, not the Boon Tooth. It's easy. That's actually a really difficult word to say, I've got to say, Pauls. Bone Tooth. You say that quickly. Yeah, a bit of a tongue twister. Regardless, though, lots of daggers, lots of blades. So Rengar is going full for this early game dominance. Vanez is just going to have to deal with it. He does have a giant spell, which is going to keep him alive a lot longer. It's going to give him a lot more presence in the lane as well. So that's why I think Rengar's going to start to roam a lot more.
Yeah, and if you look at the team, it's very early game orientated. They have good transition to the mid game. Late game is kind of dependent on how well they do in the mid and early game. Therefore, everyone's just going to pick up Doran's items because they're efficient. They help you in the early game, mid game, because itemization is not kind of dependent on slots. Because the only reason Doran items are not good is because they're not item efficient, or slot efficient rather, with Matt getting locked up in the mid lane and just completely melted as that gank from Chawachol this time works on and out.
And that, in a nutshell, is the strength of Rengar Kayle. You can tower dive. With the Thrill of the Hunt ultimate, plus the intervention as well, I mean, they basically took no damage and towered over Diana from nearly full hit points. Absolutely brutal. And already, the alarm bells were beginning to ring. That being said, though, Zac has had a chance to get some free farm at top lane. He's still 12 behind, though, on Rengar. So Rengar's not only roaming and having presence in mid, he's still beating Zac at top.
Yeah, indeed. It's something you don't typically think of, because when you play Diana, like, you do not generally dive her Diana, because she has Moonfall, she'll lock up everyone who dies her, and she can just respond with a lot of burst damage on demand. But because they're so far ahead, because of the intervention as well as you mentioned, they can easily go for that. And Vanez has left him a little time to catch up on farm. He's only 10 CS behind right now, but Chawachol has no issue just chunking away at him. Got that blue buff as well, but he's actually responding now. He's got some more armor under his belt with the Let's Bounce coming through. Chawachol dropping incredibly low. Auto attacks come down, and the tower shot. Istari comes in, lands the auto attack and the Reckoning, and will be just wailing away at these bloblets. Should be good to go unless Dr. Matt can do something about it. Jumps in with the Lunar Rush. Auto attacks come down. Istari will be picking up that kill, and Dr. Matt cannot trade off effectively against Istari. As the trade comes in, intervention is back off cooldown. One auto attack will do the job. Double kill for Istari.
Two-shot barrage came up as well, but I've got to say, Dr. Matt, that was a huge error in judgment. You're 2 levels behind, now 3 behind on the Kayle, plus the fact must have known the intervention was back up. So, honestly, I mean, Dr. Matt should have just backed away there, Pauls, cut the losses. Zac was going to die. His bloblets were taking damage from the tower. There was no way he was surviving that mess.
It's interesting, like, we didn't actually comment too much on the Diana pick, but Diana is not something we see very much at all unless your name is Skara. So, like, what's your thoughts on Diana right now? Because my 2 cents on Diana is she's essentially just straight up outclassed by a lot of the other mid laners at the moment. You look at the likes of Orianna, Gragas, even Lysandra, and then you look at Diana, like, she just doesn't offer the same sort of thing. Yes, she can snowball, but so can the rest of the other mid laners, and they're a lot more safe. And you do not want to be jumping onto the creeps. Chawachol chunks you down to 25% HP. In the bot lane, Stranglethorns comes up, but already dead will be Hiver. The passive comes down, tags Agua on the way out, but Kiala is still chunking down. Nardius as he lands the Zenithblade into the Shield of Daybreak, but Talol has entered the fight, so has Bonnie. Agua returns, and Talol follows up. Resonating Strike on top of the Sonic Wave, and no one really wants to be trading off against Talol right there. 2-for-1 trade. Jumps to the minions once again. I think that's all we're going to see, as the Sonic Wave just barely misses Agua.
Yeah, a 2-for-1 trade at bot, but a 2-for-2 globally there, with Kayle picking up a double kill in total in this game, so 2-0, whereas Rengar has 3 kills, so they're finding the kills on the right places. Top lane though.
Indeed, the tower will be dropping. Intervention pot by Istari. Vanez does not quite catch up. Nothing will be happening apart from that tower dying. But Tallow, meanwhile in the bot lane, is actually very low on HP. Who's going to go in with the aid of Hiver, but just going to back on.
So, you asked me before, I believe you asked me about my thoughts on Diana, but I'm going to hold that thought for now because Rengar's going top.
Indeed, and he doesn't have the ultimate to hand, but he does have the ball, which will be locking down Vanna's. Flash comes down, and the stretching strike, but the flash comes in from Rengar as well. Meanwhile, Akira coming in from the backside along with Dr. Matt. 1 kill being picked up to Zac. Istari will be shut down. Challenge going 1 versus 2. Does not pick up the kill to Nocturne as he flashes on out, and Dr. Matt does not have the vision, but will still pick him up with the Crescent Sweep.
Brilliant reactionary play there, has to be said, from Inferno. And that was looking so bad right there for Zac, but they managed to turn it around into a 1 versus 2. A 1 for 2, I should say. But going back onto the Diana pick, keeping an eye at bot lane here. I agree. I think it's outclassed by a lot of champions. It's melee, so it's not as easy to get in contention with the likes of Orianna, Ziggs, etc. It's not a bad pick here. In fact, the owner's going in.
Yeah, Solar Flare came down, did not quite tag them, but Hiver will still be dropping, or should be. Bonnie lands the last auto attack. I say the last auto attack, now finally dropped. Yala is so low. Passive is up. That Fury of the Falls as it comes through and just picks up a minion. Bonnie and Nardius left to trade in the bottom lane. Autox come down and the Mystic shot. Nardius going all in for this one, but Bonnie comes back in. It's very close. Neither of these AD carries want to go any further.
Yeah, just a few love taps here and there. I've got to say, though, that Ezreal can play a bit more aggressive because he has his barrier, whereas Lucian's popped both his summoner spells. I think that's why Bonnie is staying in this lane and is having, you know, a bit of cheeky banter between the two of them. That being said, though, here comes Rengar.
Yeah, he's got the ultimate available. Jumps in, deletes Bonnie. There was nothing he could do to react to that.
Yeah, didn't even get to use a barrier, and now Nardius is going down.
Yeah, Paranoia comes out. Chalachar just backs off. He just runs away, but he's actually assisting Tallow, who's at the blue buff, decimates him, and just taken out instantly. People just melting wherever Rengar goes.
This has been such an action-packed game, Pulse. 19 kills at 15 minutes 15. My goodness, that's more than a kill a minute right now. And that's going to be a blue buff stolen away on top of everything else. Aguilar will be backing away. I'm still not going to talk about Diana, because it seems every time I'm about to mention her, all hell breaks loose. There's a dragon. Yeah, it is definitely a curse.
Indeed. Maybe just put that one to rest, but the dragon will be chunked down so incredibly quickly by both of these players. Shoot Barrage comes through, does not quite connect. Neither will the grasping roots, but Akira potentially find himself caught by Tallow. But maybe Tallow's the one who's being caught with Solar Flare coming down. Xenoblade comes through, Shield of Daybreak, and the auto attack picks up the kill, and the Rampage for Akira.
You gotta love it when teams just throw down together. They're like, okay, we can play this one slow and boring, or we could just go balls to the wall aggression.
Yeah.
Now a 3 versus 2 at bot lane. Again, when you got Leona, when you've got Nocturne, they can engage off a dime, but both those ultimates are down, so they are going to be backing away, because it's definitely a big power spike that they lose. Very much ultimate-centric champions.
Yeah, this game is incredibly even. If we look at the scaling as well, I would say there's slightly more to the team of heavy bot lane, or rather in Inferno. I want to call them Infuse for a second, but Vanez, well, just both of them fighting over the Wraith, and it will be Chabachard running away with that one. But I feel the scaling is slightly better from Inferno eSports, but if heavy bot lane increase the pace of the game, if they accelerate the game, pick up these objectives like Dragon, like these outer turrets, then that won't ever really become an issue for them, especially when Chabachard doing so well for himself, already got 4 stacks on that Bone Tooth necklace.
Yeah, and remember, that was his first item that he picked up after his Doran, so it is starting to get very scary right now. But Cabochard, he had a lot of early game dominance, and he's kind of, I don't want to say that he's fallen off here, Pulse, but he's definitely not escalated at the kind of velocity that I was expecting to see. Zac is not a huge amount of gold behind, and also he's not a huge amount of level XP behind as well. Does have that Sunfire cape, so he's going to start to be a bit of a thorn in the side here of heavy bot lane.
Yeah, and as soon as, well, basically because they've gone for so many Durance items, they've hit the Hue spike in the early game, yes, but that will start to kind of scale off, and then because of the more conservative item builds, the item builds that work better in the mid game, late game, will start to pay off for the team of Inferno eSports, who haven't been going for this all-out aggression early game. They've been responding to that aggression, and the flash comes down, and the paranoia comes out, True Shot Barrage comes down, Triangle Thorns comes up, and also Nadia is still wailing away at these players as Halal comes in from behind. Also the KO, they are looking to collapse, but Talal is still out of position. That's a kill onto Acura, knocks back Bonnie, who jumps back in with Arcane Shift and will use intervention to keep him alive. Kial is still on the front lines. Rengar will be dropping somewhere in the upper regions of the game, of the map, but also Leona will be dropping in the bot lane.
Jeez, these guys are bloodlust. They want gore, they want kills. And it looks like they are going to pick up the third tower of this game. All three towers have been gone into the hands of heavy bot lane. And Lee Sin looks to be in a bit of trouble here.
Yeah, indeed. I think he just took some damage from minions, which really confuses his casters because we see them flashing up red. But Bonnie is on very low HP and indeed mana, but Vanez comes over the wall. Let's Bounce comes in and the white is still wailing away at people. Ezreal will drop. Flash comes in from Astari and everyone's trying to run away from the giant green man who also picks up the Lee Sin. The jolly green giant will claim a kill this day.
More kills, more death, more destruction. I have to say, I love it, Pulse, as a caster. There's nothing worse than when you're casting a really slow game, and this has been anything but slow. Nardius again is going for this Bloodthirster opening with Last Whisper, which we said last time around was a bit of a head-scratcher, but he did have such a good start that Bloodthirster makes a lot of sense, because it will just escalate you very quickly into a position where you cannot be budged out of the lane, and you're out-trading the likes of Jinx. This time around, of course, it is Ezreal, but he's going for Bloodthirster again, even though he's not necessarily crushing that lane. Yes, he's ahead in terms of CS, but he has died 3 times, and that's pretty significant.
Yeah, it's a little interesting because last time I felt that the team was more lacking AP damage, as something we were saying during Champion Select of the first game. Well, this time around they have Hiva there, they also have Istari, who's offering a lot of AP damage, and the fact that he's gone for a Last Whisper is like not as necessary, because last time it was easier for Inferno eSports basically just to itemize straight up into the armor, but Chavo Chod does indeed have the ultimate, and the Sword of the Divine deletes Bonnie, and Kiala cannot get out of here. He does not have an escape from this one. Bola comes down, and that's surely going to be the double kill for Chavo Chod.
Oh, that damage made me hurt, man. Like, that was just crazy. Insta-giving Ezreal. There's nothing he could do there. In fact, they're going to be re-engaging on this one.
Indeed, Agua has found himself Chavo Chod, who jumps over the wall. Zaka's also there, sticking to them like glue. Kill has been picked up with Stretching Strike. Dr. Matt coming in from the side. 1 minute on the Dragon, so that's not really what these guys are fighting over. But Nardius waiting for his cooldown on his Relentless Pursuit. In fact, he has it. Agua backs on off, realizing he's not going to win that trade. Plants come up and will be wailing away against Dr. Matt, who gets hit up by Talon, knocks him away with Dragon's Rage. Nardius, however, is using ultimate. The Conning picks up one. Aqua still being followed after, but Talon, once again, just going a little too far. Those Bloblets are not going to survive for too long.
And that is one of the reasons why Bloodthirst is so good on Nardius, because it's making culling actually really hurt at these stages of the game. I mean, we both joked before about it being a pea shooter, but right now it's anything but. That crushed through Diana like she wasn't even there, picking up the kill, and now he's able to stay in mid and hold off this onslaught for now. So with all this going down, I do like the Last Whisper pickup as well here, Pulse, because if you look at the itemization of the opposition, Vanez is going pretty much full armor. That's Ninja Tabi, Sunfire Cape. So Nardius is going to be able to cut through him and Leona as well.
Yeah, but Chabachard using the ultimate once again. He's looking for Bunny. He's got him in the sights, but Arcane Shift in the wall has put a spanner in the works, and Kiala not able to connect the Xenoblade to Astari and has found himself a new target.
And this is the scary factor of having Dragon alive, where both teams are vying for this ward control. Leona and Ezreal came down a bit too deep, and Rengar just obliges by neutralizing them completely. That's going to be another Dragon to the side here of heavy bot lane, who's starting to edge ahead further and further in gold. Bonnie's been caught.
Yeah, indeed. Reckoning comes across, will be landing as he Arcane shifts out. True Shot Barrage comes down, lands onto several of those players, but I don't think they want to engage 3 versus 5. Yes, they're very low, but also Nardius is on hand to react. They're still kind of posturing about, but I'm not sure if I like this engagement if they were looking for it.
Yeah, they need to be super careful here because right now, heavy bot lane 5.8k ahead, 3-0 on towers as well. So in terms of map presence, in terms of jungle presence as well, it has to be said, heavy bot lane are a long way ahead in this game. They have kills on the right players. They're Kale 6-1, which is just going to be terrifying to play against. 3-3 Lucian with a lot of farm, and a 7-for-5 Rengar who has, let's have a quick look at how many bone stacks he actually currently has, 6. So he's starting to get towards that stage as well, where we saw previously, Pauls, he can just instantly kill Ezreal, and Bonnie cannot do anything about that, which is going to mean that in team fights, Ezreal's going to be playing quite fidgety. He realizes if he stays around for too long, it's only a matter of time before Rengar jumps on his head and insta-kills him.
Yeah, indeed, but they're going to go for the engagement themselves. Paranoia comes through. Istari will not drop just yet with the intervention coming down. Dragon's Rage is used defensively. 5 players in the mid lane from the team of Inferno, picking up one themselves. Lucian in the bot, Rengar coming in from the backside as well. But this is going to be a 4 versus 5 at best. Hiva is dropping low, and the middle tower is being sieged in, but with no minions. This is maybe not what they want. Sword of Divine has been used, drops Dr. Matt, but he's being dropped in return. 3 versus 4 at the moment, but everyone is so low. Kiala dropping very low himself, and Acura returns into the fight. The culling comes down, cleans up some minions, and also tags Acura himself. Lands the Q. Talal does not dare go any further as Bonnie is forced to back off, and so low will be the team of Inferno, but there's not very much that heavy bot lane can do about it.
They're going to be re-engaging though, Pulse.
They are indeed. Vanez jumps in, and they're just juggling the damage so incredibly well. Nardius will drop, and that was just very good damage juggling.
That could have been a lot worse though, I've got to say right now, from heavy bot lane. Bonnie was caught in 2 minds again in that fight where he actually flashed to try and kill Zyra and missed his skill shots. So again, it was a case of Bonnie did not want to go 1 versus 1 against Lucian, which you can understand because Nardius is pretty big right now, but in doing so he put the rest of his team in a fairly precarious position because Aiko was taking it on his shoulders to play aggressive, to zone out Lucian, and then suddenly it's like, guys, where's the rest of my team? Oh my god, I have to pull back or I'm going to die. He was completely alone.
Yeah, like Inferno eSports, even though they won that team fight, great, but they're losing in the immediate terms. But when you get to late game netters, they have better scaling, and because of the pace of the game changing, Rengar kind of scales off in that respect, because he's so strong right now, because the teams aren't going for 5 versus 5 clumps. They're kind of going onto their respective lanes, trying to take down these outer turrets, being in their jungle. But when you get to late game, the kind of play is to be grouped as 5, and unless Chad can 1 versus 1 Zac at all times, which he probably can at this stage, but he'll hit a wall at a certain point, and their team composition will start to scale off. That's the only thing they have to be careful of.
I think that's another reason why they picked up Kale as well, so that Rengar could go just full damage, just full terror. Lots of Rengars will actually pick up a Sunfire Cape or something similar to that, and play a more tanky role. In fact, Instari's been caught here.
Yeah, Paranoid comes through, and Vanna's not quite able to land the stretching strike. And the rest of the team will back on off. And that's kind of the play, though. They're grouping up as 5. They recognize that Rengar's strength comes from picking people off. He will be split pushing, but the middle tower dropping very rapidly. We'll see if they can take this out in time. Culling used defensively to clear out these minions, but as long as they don't get caught, this could put them ahead because Rengar destroys towers.
He does. Definitely true. And it's going to be quite scary for them, but you know, Rengar is just pushing that top, and now he's getting rid of all of this pressure. It alleviates the pressure. You can see the rest of Inferno are having to back away as heavy bot lane really bully them out. And in fact, he's chunking through that tower like it was never there. That's the power of the Sword of the Divine, though, Pulse. It looks like they're going to try and engage with Thanos, but I honestly don't think they can catch up with him.
And why is Rengar such a good split pusher? Because he has the ultimate as well. Unless they can get the engagement in the mid lane. That inhibitor turret was for nothing. Nardius has been caught by Moonfall. Triangle Thorns used defensively. Chad has found himself in this fight. He believed his team was fighting, but that is definitely not the case. Solar Flare comes down. Tallow gets caught. Intervention comes down. Acura should surely pick up the kill onto Chad. He has been feared, but no one's going for him. Astaria is still there. He jumps in. He picks up 1. Picks up the second for the double kill. 3 for 2 trade, and Hiva should be getting out of this one, but that was way more messy than Inferno ever needs it to be.
I don't really understand the idea there from Cabochard. He ultimated, went in, and tried to burst Leona down when Ezreal was stood right next to her. It's like you're trying to burst a tanky champion down when the AD carry is completely vulnerable. That's one of the determining factors, I have to feel, on why that was a 3 versus 2 trade, as opposed to much better in Inferno's hands. So they are going to be popping down this tower, but Bonnie's taking a bit of damage.
I think he expected the rest of his team to be more aggressive, especially when Nardius was engaged upon. He thought the rest of the team would just all in. And then, yes, he jumped on Leona, but then he could easily just chunk one person down, jump onto another person. But that's basically just not what happened, because he just misread what his team was going to do. But in that case, 21 to 21, the game is very close and does not quite connect.
Long range shot there from Nardius all the way back to the fountain. Very nearly caught himself a kill, but in doing so, even though it looks very even in terms of kills, 5-1 on towers, and you can see there is a gold deficit right now of 5.4. It has dropped a tiny bit since the last time we talked about it, in fairness to Inferno eSports, but still they're definitely playing second fiddle right now. They've looked with a couple of power spikes to be a bit more aggressive and to try and make plays, but as you said, that's just falling into the hands of Rengar, who's going to be completely cool with his 4 versus 5 in mid, because then he can go ahead and push top and take that inhibitor. So that's always going to be in the back of the mind of Inferno here. Dragon's gone down again from heavy bot lane.
Yeah, Inferno, yes, they have slightly better scaling, but they can't afford to let these objectives fall through their hands constantly. They're going for the right decisions, going for team fights where Rengar's not there, trying to win it outright, and then going for, like, huge pushing advantages. But as it is, they're just being outmaneuvered 4 versus 5, and Rengar is just pushing top lane. There's nothing else he has to do. He just needs to push in the top lane and just he's good. That's his only goal in life. And the team of Inferno are just finding it very difficult to deal with this very binary play.
And Rengar split pushing indirectly forced Bonnie to flash there, because Bonnie was recalling to try and stave off the onslaught. In doing so, he either read the situation, threw out grasping roots, and then Kayle was on top of him. He had to flash away. So that's going to be communicated to the rest of the team here of heavy bot lane, and they're going to try and play a very aggressive top lane, and Rengar's going in.
Yeah, he used the ultimate defensively to try and get out of there, but I don't think he realized that they could stun him, and then he wouldn't be able to kill his target. He was looking to essentially nuke down Ezreal with the kind of triple Q combo you can do, where you, it's a very weird combo, but you could essentially use Q 3 times and just instantly kill someone. Didn't quite work out, and I think in that case he should have probably just left.
Yep, but with Rengar being dead for 20 seconds here, Pulse, it's really the onus is on Inferno eSports now to make some use of this, because they're not having to worry about that split push capability for the next 13 seconds. Do they go for a Baron? Do they try and push? Looks like it's going to be the former of those two options. With Kayle at spawn, this is definitely doable. They've got a pretty fast Baron clear.
It's doable, but very, very risky, and I think they've already twigged as to what is happening. They managed to tag them with that ward as well. Nocturne's coming through, but Lee Sin going a little too far forward. Talon gets deleted, along with their support player of Zyra. Acua is just tanking this one up like a bot. Bonnie backing off, uses the arcane chip. Culling comes through, everyone is so low. Picks up 2 of the Culling immediately. He's on the backside, and no one is able to focus him. Dr. Matt falls, so with Vanna's. Double kill comes up for Chabochon. This fight lasted way too long, and now they're just cleaning up. The Zac, he does not have very much HP. He does have the passive. Nardius will be flashing forward. He dropped him into the passive. There's no way he's not going to clear up these bloblets, and that will be the sweep. The clean ace. Well, not quite the clean ace, a slightly dirty ace, but it's still going to be the ace coming in for heavy bot lane.
Well, considering that position, I definitely think that feels clean to them both. The drive-by from Nardius there was beautiful. That Culling crushed through 2 or 3 players. They're going to look to pick up this Baron as well, and they should be able to do this with Cabochar's attack speed and Nardius's raw damage output. And what started actually as a really good looking engage, it was a case that Inferno were like, okay, we'll try and pick up this Baron. If they come at us, we'll engage, and we know we're in a 4 versus 5 that we can win. That was great. They picked up a couple of kills, but then it was all about Nardius' positioning. That Culling, I cannot stress enough how good his positioning was there. It mullered everybody.
Yeah, that was like basically the best culling you could ever hope for, where you also get the reset on Relentless Pursuit. You could reposition. He got it on 2 people as well, so that's 2 extra Relentless Pursuits, which is absolutely superb. And the fact that they won that team fight so decisively, that you actually saw Chabochard and Nardius just hang around the Baron pit and wait until the rest of the team were alive so they can just pop it. Chabochard find himself Bonnie. Can he do it this time? He's going to be chunking him down. Arcane shifts out, flashes forward. 3 versus 1 though. He's going to convert that into a kill instead.
Too greedy, I have to say there, Pulse. Way too greedy. He could have escaped. He had his ultimate, he had his invisibility, and you could see he thought about it for a few seconds there. Do I or don't I? And he chose wrong. This is now allowing the rest of the team of heavy bot lane to actually push through mid, because there's not a great deal of cavalry coming in with Zac at bot and Nocturne at the top lane. I would expect to see Inferno try and make some plays though in a 4 vs 5.
Yeah, but the Baron buff is still available, and in these fights, which still going to be even, because that was still a 3-man commitment to Rengar. Yes, he died, yes, they picked up the kill, but that's 2 members to deal with 4 players, and especially when they have Baron buff, there's no way they can feasibly do that. And Talon just cleaning up the jungle, that's what he needs to do right now. And Chabo Chard, yes, he died, yes, that was a little bit greedy, and we saw that before, he's done that multiple times now, but because it's still requiring at least 3 people to lock him down.
Exactly, that's exactly the point, and that's really what I think Cabachard is doing. He's playing balls to the wall Rengar right now. He has 8 stacks on his Bone Tooth necklace, so he's starting again to chug through those stacks, and again that's just keeping people occupied at top. It's sucking them out, which is allowing Kayle to just burst through towers, because you look at the squad right now from heavy bot lane, man oh man do they have a good tower pushing team. Kayle can chunk through, so can the likes of Lucian, so can Rengar. It's very difficult to actually push against this team.
Yes, indeed, they've got to be very careful not to get caught out. Stretching Dragon doesn't quite connect. That was the only kind of precarious position they could find themselves in, because their disengage with Zyra is very, very strong. Q will land onto the minion, and again, Inferno cannot just meet them in a straight-on team fight. Q will land onto Kayle, and maybe not the right person they want to land it. Oh, the true shot bar's coming through. Dragon Thorns comes up, locks up free. Tallow is still alive on kicking, but the AP carry's already dropped. Chawachod on the back lines. Zonius has been used, but he chunks him down immediately as he comes out. Bonnie is still alive, but the Q will land onto him. However, yet Tallow will jump back in, jumps onto Kayle as well. Hive's still there, but meanwhile, the front line has destroyed the back line from heavy bot lane. Tallow is the only person surviving, along with Rengar, who is running for his life away from Agua. We'll see if Tallow can escape from this one. Very short ward jump, but with the elastic strong shot coming through, Bonnie will be arcane shifting forward. Auto attacks onto Tallow, should be picking this one up, but he jumps into the butt. He's just trying to distract them and allowing Chabo Chard just to pick up the red buff, and now Agua is the only one pushing, but that was a long time to commit to chasing Lee Sin.
Yeah, bonus flash as well. He flashed arcane shifted to make up the ground, but a couple of key things about that fight. First, Kayle did not use her ultimate. Intervention was not used from Istara, so that's really key. That's one of the main reasons you pick Kayle, you know, for that intervention. So dying without using it's really bad. In fact, Rengar's at top though, so they're going to look to pull this one back.
Yep, third time lucky perhaps, but can he pick up the kill onto Bonnie? He doesn't quite do it, and now he's jumping onto Vanet. Again, third time is not the charm, and he was not able to pick up the kill. This is just not working out, and this is a later stage in the game. This is something we said about Rengar, is he'll start to scale off, and yes, he's built like a lot of damage, but the fact he's not able to instantly delete Ezreal, because he's actually gone for the makings of a Randu and Omen. Nardius gets locked up, and we dropped into his Guardian Angel. Agua and Dr. Matt waiting hungrily over his corpse as he respawns and instantly dies again.
Yeah, like scavengers, desperate for that kill. Kayle needs to be careful though.
Yeah, they're gonna go for this fight. It's Starry chasing after Agua, has landed the Reckoning, jumps over the wall looking to land another. In fact, the auto attacks will be enough. Dr. Matt has nowhere to run. He cuts the vision, but Tallow is on the hunt. Jumps through, Moonfall does not land. Auto attacks come out. Double kill for Starry.
Yep, so what was looking a bit precarious before is now looking pretty good. In fact, they're going to catch them out again.
Yeah, Tallow turns the corner, but it's Starry who is their main target. The Zonius has been popped up 3 versus 2. Not sure he can do too much. Intervention has been put down, but that does not protect him from CC. His only option is to jump onto Bonnie, as Tallow still sticks around. Not the target they really want, but Hydra is definitely the one they do. The flash comes through from both the supports, and they will back on out.
Oh man, all these scattered kind of scavengery fights here between the teams, like 2 versus 3, 2 versus 1 situations. And right now, Inferno are coming out ahead. They're looking to pick up this tower, but again, that Rengar threat at top lane, they have to try and contend with. They know he's up there. Do they allow the potential inhib to go down? Now Lucian's going to clear out this wave, and Inferno have to back on away.
Yeah, and now they're being chased down. 3 versus 3, but the lower HP will be on the side of Inferno. Don't think they want to go any further. In fact, they cannot because of the distance they are increasing between them. But Rengar still in the top jungle. He is just, he's in his element just being in the top jungle, because he's only ever really going to find one person unless they make a huge commitment. And if they do, then generally his team can follow up and make something happen.
Yeah, so going back to that fight before, that happened now 2 or 3 minutes ago, it was a case that intervention wasn't used, and the other thing I was going to say is that Rengar was out of position. Speaking of him, he's going to be Diana.
Dr. Matt, he's got no way to escape like Bonnie can. Yes, he uses the Zhonya's paranoia has been popped. He comes all the way across the map. True Shot Barrage will connect, and Acura picks up the kill. And Rengar would die.
That was beautiful. It was almost like Nocturne was surfing on the True Shot Barrage. They both landed in conjunction, and now Rengar's dead for 50 seconds. So it's pretty scary right now, honestly. But again, going back to the previous fight, Rengar was out of position for about 3 seconds that he had to make, and in that terms, it allowed Infernal to just jump on the back lines and kill Lucian. You actually said this in the play-by-play commentary, Pulse, that the front lines of Inferno completely butchered and brutalized the back lines of heavy bot lane, and that's exactly what they're going for with this comp.
Yeah, and again, we keep saying it, but as we drag on later into the game, Inferno are going to find it easier and easier to go for the right type of fight. Rengar's split pushing will only work for so long, but the fact he's already got that inhibitor tower down means there's nothing really stopping him for just backdooring the inhib. And unless they can make a huge push themselves, which is less likely because they still have the inner turrets available to them, then Rengar and the rest of his team of heavy bot lane have a slight advantage in that respect. But they still have to be very aware that they will eventually be outscaled just a little.
Yeah, and that's definitely in the back of their minds. This game is somewhat of a ticking time bomb, and they need to be super careful because Baron is back alive again, very much live on the board. And what we've seen recently from Kabachar is that he is susceptible to making questionable plays here, Paul. So he is susceptible to being a bit too greedy and going all in when maybe he doesn't need to. But again, he's going to occupy that top lane, so he's dragging out Nocturne, actually he's going to ultimate on top of him. Yeah,
gonna go for this 1 versus 1 trade, and Rengar is very squishy, but he's into his ultimate, he will escape from this one. And Paranoia is arguably more valuable than Chao Charge ultimate himself. 50 seconds on that, he's got a little bit of cooldown reduction, but Acura meanwhile, so just a little bit more. Paranoia now on a 90-second cooldown, not too bad, but that's one of their bigger forms of initiation. And Talon and the rest of the team are trading down in the mid lane, just kind of trading blows, but they need to make sure not to get caught out as the rest of the team is descending on the middle lane. Perfect grasping roots will actually lock down the front line and assassins.
Yeah, it was a two-pronged strategy, I have to feel that from Nocturne. One, popping the ultimate alleviates a lot of pressure from Bonnie. He doesn't have to worry as much anymore about being instantly killed. And second, because Rengar was so low, he had to back away, so they're going to convert this into objectives. Really like the play from Nocturne, going to be engaging.
Yeah, they're going to keep them away with one hand, and Nadia is still available on the back lines, but Dr. Matt jumping in. Zhonya's comes out very preemptively, but Astari just deletes Bonnie, doesn't even need Rengar for that one, and he has actually entered the fight. Talon is still there, but he's just killing out those bloblets, and Agua will be jumped on by Rengar looking for his revenge as the deadly bloom comes up and claims the ace. 5-0.
Everything what went right in the previous 5 versus 5 when Inferno came out ahead was completely horrific there, I have to say. Heavy bot lane, they managed to actually segregate Ezreal away from the rest of his team, and whereas last time around Vanez was able to jump on top and punish the back lines of heavy bot lane, this time it was the complete reverse. The Vanez and Nocturne went down, they ended up dying, and as you said yourself, Istari just insta-gibbed Ezreal. There's nothing he could do, had no peel. In fact, they could win the game off the back of this.
Yeah, they might indeed. Got no minions, but they don't even need them. The towers are just dropping like flies. Intervention used onto Hiver, and indeed the Nexus will be falling. Colin comes through. 41-minute game between Inferno eSports and Heavy Bot Lane. Heavy Bot Lane picking up this series 2-0.
That was a game, honestly, that was on a seesaw. It could have gone either way, Pulse. There were some points there where Inferno looked way ahead, and